Okay. So you're like, oh, Shana, that sounds easy for you to say, don't use my credit card that I don't even know how to budget without it. We need to put it on paper. That's what we're saying. Like put it all on paper, see what's possible. See if I next month, if I tried not to use my credit card, how would I be able to fund my life? Would it work? Okay. And then the other thing, a lot of times people are doing the credit card. They're using the credit card as a budget, which is not a budget, but we love you. We still love you. Okay. We still love you. But, what they would do is they just pay it off at the end of the month, right? Or when they get their paycheck, they pay off the credit card. That's like the cycle that they're in. So what we're going to tell you is what we want you to do is start using your budget, and you're not going to be able to pay it off necessarily. We're going to have to go make payments until we can get the budgets fixed and looking at how we can pay it off, over time. But really the first step is to get using your own money, like using your own cash to pay for stuff. So there's a couple things. First of all, I'm just going to throw it in here because I'll forget. If you have to use a credit card to pay for it, it means you can't afford it. That's actually what that means. It means you didn't have the money. Just like if you can pay it, replay that in your head, it means I can't afford this. Maybe I shouldn't buy it right now.
Welcome to Her Unshakeable Confidence with dynamic mother-daughter duo Simone and Olivia Knego, where they discuss the secrets of transformation and how to build bold confidence and unwavering resilience. From intimate conversations with inspiring guests to sharing their personal journeys of triumph and challenge, Simone and Olivia create a supportive space where every woman is encouraged to rise above her fears and love the woman in the mirror. Tune into Her Unshakeable Confidence and join this special journey of connection and growth. It's like catching up with old friends who inspire you to be bravely and uniquely you.
Welcome to this week's episode of Her Unshakeable Confidence. I'm Simone Knego.
And I'm Olivia Knego.
And we are really excited because we have returning guests on the Budget Besties. And we're so excited to have them back to do a holiday episode to talk about budgets. That might not sound exciting to you, but it is very exciting, right? It is very exciting. So Shana and Vanessa are best friends and business partners on a mission to redefine personal finance for women worldwide. They're powerhouse keynote speakers, master financial coaches, and co-hosts of the top 1% globally ranked podcast, Financial Coaching for Women. As some of the only people who truly love talking about budgets, although I'm enjoying this right now, Shana and Vanessa know how to make personal finance fun, judgment-free, and refreshingly simple. Had a hard time with that word. Bringing over a decade of coaching experience to the table and training by Dave Ramsey, Shana and Vanessa are taking the shame out of money talk and teaching women worldwide how to be bougie on a budget. Thank you so much for being here today, guys.
Thanks for having us. We are so excited to talk about the B word today.
The B word.
The B word. And I love the bougie on a budget thing. That just is always going to resonate with me. I just find it like so appealing because Olivia, you're bougie and you're on a budget.
Yeah, don't get me started about my budget. It's non-existent.
And your bouginess. Well, also there's alliteration with it. I just feel like, and also Simone, the way you say it, like bougie, like there's a little.
Yeah, she accents it weird.
Yeah.
Or like, but in a good way, not in a weird way.
Yeah. Classy.
Yeah.
Well, and just what we realized that people want that life. They want to be bougie. They want to be okay with it. They want to not have that shame around it. And so like, I look at my dog, I'm like, oh, my dog is so bougie. It's just, it is just what happens with our lifestyle. And like, we just want to be okay with it. And we're excited to have our clients be okay with it.
So let's talk about the holidays because it is a very stressful time of year. We just finished Thanksgiving and I didn't find it that stressful this year, but my husband sure found it stressful. I mean, I don't really understand. Well, he wanted the turkey to come out perfectly and it did in the end, but it didn't at first. And that was like throwing him off. And I'm like, get over yourself. So I think a lot of people come through the holidays and they're like so stressed about the family get-togethers and making sure everything is just right. And then we've got to focus on the financial part in terms of the gifts and the gift giving and any kind of charitable donations you want to make. So what do you think is the biggest piece to making this less stressful at this time of year?
Well, I think, all the time, one of the biggest things is to plan ahead, which everybody loves. Hello, let's talk about how much
we're all so good at it.
Planning ahead. But, for example, we have lots of people, we have a free Facebook community and they're all like, this was the first year I had money for Black Friday set aside and I was ready, and it's like, that's where we want to get you. Obviously, we're already in December. So, but what we would say is get it out on paper right now. So the thing is, it's like, it's in your head. I need to do this and that and the other. Like if we could put it on paper and see what we're actually dealing with, like, who do we still need to get gifts for? What is our budget? What do we have? Like kind of get it out of the wrecking balls in our brain. That would help.
Yeah. One of the things that we realize with when we're talking to people is if they can just, like Shana said, put it on paper, it is way less than what you're making it out to be in your brain. In your brain, we call them wrecking balls, and they're just piling up and you think that they're so much bigger, so much worse. But once you write it down, and that's one thing we love about math, it doesn't lie. It's literally black and white. So once you write it all down and you're like, oh, this is completely achievable. I can do this in this amount of time and get this many presents, ship this much out, wrap whatever you need to do to make Christmas and the rest of the year feel accomplishable. It can work.
Yeah. I just see that the planning thing, I think, is such a big deal because I know a lot of people, me included, wait till the last second. And then you're like, well, I can't get that. So you know what? I'm not getting anything. And
it's like the screw it mentality.
Right. So obviously it's not the right way to do it, but do you see some of your clients saying that? Like, okay, I didn't save enough, so therefore I'm not going to buy anything, or I'm going to overspend and then have to pay for it later.
I think that second one is probably more popular and it's not just overspending, which nobody wants to do that, but it's like, it's unintentional gift giving that you're not like excited. Oh, well, this is what I could find instead of what I really wanted to do or whatever. That's not the vibes. That's not the vibes that we're going for Christmas. So, just getting it out on paper. And the thing that's unfair, and you sort of alluded to it, is there's so many. It's not like I just have to remember to get presents for my family. It's also my work Secret Santa. And then the kids have this. And then, oh, by the way, there's this Christmas party I don't have a sweater for. And then I have to buy all the things to wrap presents are not cheap, y'all. So there's just like so many things going on and you just feel like you're constantly getting attacked, like you're an ATM for money and you're like, but where is it coming from?
Yeah.
And so we have a Christmas planner. We can give you the guys a link in the show notes that, just kind of lay it all out, like so that you're not forgetting everything. Because even like if you still do Christmas cards, which God bless you if you do, not me, but then stamps and all of that kind of stuff. So, we just want to get it all out of your brain and put it on paper so that it really does help. Like then it's just a checklist to cross off,
Yeah. And, and when you were talking about, do they overspend? Yes, because they just don't know who they're buying for. Like Shana said, not only are our lives being leveled up and being bougie, now it's like, we don't want to say the keeping up with the Joneses, but it's almost that mentality with their kids. Like, what are your kids doing? What are their friends doing? And now they want to do the same. What presents are they getting everyone? Oh, well, we have to at least get the same. Right. And so it's like everything costs more money. And so they're just shoveling it out, not knowing what they're spending, or they're putting it on a credit card and not tracking it. So, we really, like Shana said, we want to put it on paper, get a number, get a final number at the end and go, look, I don't care how and when and whatever you spend it, but this is your budget. Feel free to do with it what you want. And if you can at least stay within this number, then you know that everything else is being taken care of, like your utilities and whatever else you have going on that month, any other credit card bills or other groceries and things that you have to buy. If you can at least hit this target number, then you can rest assured that you didn't overspend, right? Yeah.
One of the things Olivia and I talked about on our episode for this week is the food part of it too. So we're thinking about the gifts, but like the amount of money that you spend on a holiday meal can be overwhelming.
Sure. Yeah. Well, and that's just the meal. Again, the meal is the one thing. Then you have the cookie exchange. Then you have the potluck that you got invited to. And it's like, again, it just keeps coming. I think that's important to think about using the planner, getting it all out of your brain. Like Vanessa said, having a number, but a separate thing or something else that could help is separating your bank accounts. So we obviously teach that. Last time we came, talked about it on your podcast, but here, what if you have a separate bank account for your bills and a separate bank account for your spending? And you might even have a separate bank account for Christmas. And that way you just know, like, there's the pot of money for Christmas. It's not, my bills are still getting paid over there. And anytime I'm going to Target or wherever to get something that is Christmas related, Christmas adjacent, then I know where the money is coming from. I feel like that's usually, like, knowing where the money is coming from is like the big battle that we want to win.
Well, and I know it's the end of the year. So this Christmas, you may not have planned as well as you wanted to. That's okay. Don't completely go and be derailed and be like, I messed up. I'm just going to swipe away on a credit card anyways. Like, let's try to figure out what number that you still need to stay within this month to feel good about, the rest of the year. But then think about January. You have January coming up. How much better can you do Christmas next year? So take our Christmas planner. We'll put it in the notes and then go, okay, how much did I spend this year on Christmas? Because like you said, you have gifts, you have food, you have stamps, you have the photo shoot, you have whatever, all these different things that you need to pay for, and you forget that they all add up. Christmas, like we like to say, Christmas gets its own Christmas bucket, like a savings bucket, because it's so convoluted and it's not just gifts, right? So if you can figure out how much money are you going to spend on Christmas this year, or did you spend? And then how can I plan better for next year? So let's say if you spent $2,000 this year, I'm just throwing a number, 5,000, whatever that number is, $5,000. Okay. Take that number, divide it by 12 and go, if I put away this much money for 12 months next year, I'm going to have the exact amount I need to be able to make Christmas feel better and be fully funded for 2025. And then you don't have to stress about it. You have cash to be able to pay for it.
Yeah, I think that's something I definitely need to do for next year. I found this year I didn't save any money for Black Friday, and I am on a very strict budget being in school and all, and I don't want to be like, hey mom, pay for thousands of dollars for things for me right now. And I honestly didn't even write down what I would have wanted in the first place. So I feel as though I let this major, sale event come and go without spending anything, because I was like, oh, I didn't set aside money and I didn't know what I was going to buy, but I just moved into a long-term apartment in the past 6 months. And I didn't even think about any of the needs I would do in that aspect. And I don't know. I feel like I missed out this year.
Yeah. Well, that is so interesting you say that, because for the first time we had a client this year who set up a Black Friday savings bucket, which is different than a Christmas savings bucket. So just to go on this little tangent here, you could have gotten probably some things for your new home. Vanessa likes to get a lot of her supplements and, different stuff. Maybe your skincare stuff has a big sale or whatever. And it might be a great time of year to just grab, stock up. Like how people go to Costco, your Black Friday, it might be like that. And so then, it's really good, whether it was one time, where you're moving in, or, it's just we're talking about hair care products or whatever. If you have a Black Friday, just knowing that I'm funding this. And then when the sale comes, if there are things because that's the thing that I learned about Black Friday. None of us are buying for other people.
No,
Black Friday.
You're really on Black Friday. It's for us.
Which is totally fine. And it's a good deal usually. So we want to be able to do that. So definitely think about okay, if I could set it up, and Liv, you can do it right now. If you have a separate bank account, you can set up an automatic transfer starting January, however your money pay cycles, you can have it set up once, twice, whatever a month, even if it's a little bit, you guys, and just have it automatically going into that bank account that's labeled, whatever you want to call it, something fun. And then it just starts in January. And if it's a little bit at first, that's better than nothing. It'll get you in the habit, and then you can take it from there. Because
we like to say look, maybe $5,000 next year for Christmas is your goal. But what if you don't hit that? Don't feel like a failure. Something in that account is better than nothing, because having to figure out where $5,000 is going to come from in November, December, because people forget, and then oh, Black Friday's here. Oh, maybe I should be budgeting for Christmas, right? And then they try to figure it out in that month and a half time frame. But think about what if you had $2,000? What if you had $3,000 already in your account for Black Friday? Because like she said, I'm spending money on myself for Black Friday. Everyone else happens, that happens in December. But having that money set aside for you and for the gifts and all that, it's just going to feel so much better. And like Shana said, set it up on automatic payment or automatic transfers, y'all. That is the best thing ever. You don't need an app. You don't need anything else besides your bank. Set it up through your bank, have it go every single paycheck, a little bit in there, and then hide that account, y'all, so you don't see it, so it's not tempting, so you don't pull from it throughout the year, right? Because here's the other thing too, is people think, oh, well, that's great. Maybe I'll pull that money in April or whatever because I need it for something. let's be real, Christmas is going to happen, right?
Yeah.
It's going to happen every year. It's not like I may need that money in Christmas. No, you're going to spend that money on Christmas next year. So let's try not to do that. Try to keep that money there. Try to keep it hidden so that way you don't spend it. So that way when that time comes and you do need it, you have the money available.
It's so interesting because my oldest son, her oldest brother, is getting married, and they have whatever, you sign up for this website now and you do your gift registry, and a lot of the stuff was on Black Friday sales. And he's like, I can't believe your friends didn't take advantage of that. But I think people don't think about it like that, right?
No.
When you're buying a gift for someone, you feel guilty if you buy it on sale. But I think we need to change the mindset of that. Okay,
Who thinks that?
Simone, do you think that? We don't.
I don't think that.
I totally don't.
Well, I
think
was trying to
that.
figure out why are people not buying gifts right now when it's
ahead?
That's it. They think they have so much more time and to be able to plan for that they're not thinking about it right now.
Also, and that's part of the system, and we can get more into our budget system, but we're usually living in the moment with our money, and there's no it's like I have to figure out how to afford this in the 5 minutes before I have to go buy it and get to the wedding, right? But if we can get to a place where they're we have a gifts account, which, obviously your son, it being your son would be different, but everybody else, you just throw a certain amount of money in there every month. And, you have birthdays, weddings, random baby shower, just whatever the random things are, you always have the money. And if you always have the money, and then you see that, then you can go ahead and purchase it when it makes the most sense. Yeah. But usually our budgets, we're like flying by the seat of our pants down to the last dollar, or we have no idea really what's going on. So we don't know. Right. And we don't want to look at the money or think about it. So we just push it off until we have to.
Well, I remember a lady when I had a call with her, she said, well, I have my HOA dues that are coming up in 2 months. And then she was really stressed. It was $800 or something. And I said, well, that's fine. We'll budget for that now. But what if we take that amount, divide it by 12? And so every single month you're putting a certain amount of money in your annual bill savings account. So that way, when it comes due next time, you already have it funded. That was completely mind blowing to her. She had no idea, that concept of saving ahead for those big annual bills or birthdays or anniversaries or things like that are coming up. That concept had never even crossed her mind. So when Shana says we're living in the moment with our money, that's what we're doing. We can't even think about what's happening in 2 or 3 months. I tell people, start planning for spring break now. Spring break is in March, it's literally coming up. So if you're planning on going on vacation, you're going to spend $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 wherever you're going, those week-long Airbnbs that people are paying for, those are $5,000 a piece, right? You need to start that now, not in February. Don't think about that in March or February when that time comes. So it's just harder for people when they're not used to planning, they're not used to, really setting a budget, which is step number 1, and setting goals. So that way they can be able to fund that stuff that they want to do.
Yeah. And I don't want to talk too much, but it is literally what I do. So, but the
keep talking.
I know. The thing is, we want you to think bigger with your money. That's really what we want. It's, we are usually avoiding it. We're usually, doing the bare minimum. And so because we're avoiding it, our heads in the sand or whatever, it's so funny. It's so weird. We spend everything, right? So you spend everything because you don't really know, or you don't care, or you don't want to know. So you feel better if you just spend. It makes you feel better, right? But if we actually go look at it on purpose and really pay attention, then this is how you become bougie on a budget. Or when you actually look at the math, you can see, I can totally afford my pumpkin spice lattes to get my nails done, get my favorite hair products, go on vacation, and I can afford it if I'm intentional. But the not looking makes us have these bad spending habits. What we've learned is even people who overspend, hello, guilty. Any people, even people who are like to get on Amazon and just go. Once they are intentional in looking at their money, they get more excited about saving up for spring break with the family, or having a home account live where they have a little budget every month and they can sort of furnish it and make it their own. They get more excited about that than they do spending money. But for some reason, this unknown, when I'm just sort of letting it kind of run itself and I'm not running it, then they just spend more, and that's why you have nothing to show for it, right? They make good money, but they have nothing to show for it. It's not because the income's bad. It's not because it's not even usually their bills are extraordinary. It's just, I'm just spending on a whim because I don't really know what's going on.
So let's start there. So tips to help people really think about that. I mean, I know you have a whole process. We can talk about that a little bit, but just even if we bring it back to the holidays, like how do you even start?
Yeah. Well, I think one of the main problems is that people are still banking like they did when they were 18. Yeah. Right. So this concept of having multiple bank accounts is very new to them. And so when we talk about having an account that strictly pays your bills, that's it. That's all it does. You don't have that. You don't keep the debit card on you. You don't use the debit card. You put a certain amount of money in that account and all it does is pay bills. And then you have a separate account where you spend out of. Like this spending account keeps you accountable to knowing how much money that you can spend freely. And like Shana said, knowing that everything else is happening over here, like you don't even have to worry about that because it's on autopilot. And then all you have to really do is worry about what you're spending. But again, people not understanding that you can have like a system set up in your bank account to be able to help you do this. Yeah. It's a new concept.
Well, and we like to think about how complicated finances are now. If you go back a generation, like you didn't have as many bills. There wasn't even
no
internet or whatever, so right. You literally couldn't have as many bills. The savings plan was like a tin can or between the mattresses or whatever. Even a generation and a half ago, definitely a generation, like they didn't even have credit cards. So, and digital banking, like no. So a lot of us, things have gotten more complicated. And in order to keep up with that, we want you to use these tools to your advantage. That's why we're saying you can have more than one account. Imagine you have that account over there paying your bills and you just know that the bills are taken care of. Now in my brain, all I have to worry about is like Vanessa said, sticking to this spending. And that's like so much easier than trying to go through a million transactions and seeing, okay, the rent got paid, but my water bill, but I want to go to Target. No, ain't nobody got time for that in the moment. So that's the first step, is just separating the accounts. And as we told you, then you can get more sophisticated with it, with savings buckets and stuff like that. But the idea is once you get it all on paper, that's when you know you can be bougie on a budget. How many times do people feel like they're broke? They can't do anything. We put their numbers in there. It's like, oh, I have extra money.
Oh, it happens all the time.
I have extra money.
They're like, how do I have $2,000 left over at the end of the month? Because you're used to just spending it all. So they have no idea. But one of the things that we like to tell people too is like, you can put numbers and words on paper. That's totally fine. You can call that a budget. If you don't do anything with it, you're not being productive. It's not a budget because you're not using it. But this whole system of having savings buckets, of being able to be bougie in a budget and set up how much is going to go where and when and all that, and having the spending account, that's a system. So we really talk about having a budget system for you to use, not just a regular budget, which is why budgets in the past probably haven't worked for people.
Well, and like we said, there's a lot of tools that you can use now, and like nobody wants to budget. We understand it sounds like a chore. It sounds boring, whatever. It's math. Like, that's even like another
level. Yeah.
So what we like is do it once, go to Starbucks, get your pumpkin spice latte, whatever. That's not even the right season. Whatever is out right now.
Peppermint latte.
Peppermint mochas. Yeah.
So get your peppermint latte and just like do it for a minute. And then the way that we want you to set it up, it does it automatically. So your income goes into your bills account, and then you have automatic transfers going to your spending and to your different savings buckets. So when you wake up on payday, your bills are paid, you have money to spend, and you're saving for the things that you've set as a goal. And it's a system, like Vanessa said. So you know what? If a system is running, then I'm less likely to mess it up. When I have to actually go in and do things with my hands and do the math in the moment, that's when I mess stuff up. That's why we want you to use these tools, automatic transfers. You can rename your accounts. You can set up different accounts and all of that. And all your bills can be paid on automatic, bill pay. That way you really don't have to be that involved or spend that much time doing it. And then you can just live your life.
Well, and when Shana talks about, yes, today it's way more busy, way more complicated and convoluted in your bank of what's happening. But we're telling you to take a step back and make it simple. Like our system, although it may seem like separate bank accounts and savings buckets and spending accounts, like that seems messy. It's really not. Once you set it up, the whole thing, like Shana said, is hands off. Like you literally don't have to do anything. My husband gets paid on Wednesdays. On Thursday mornings, all my transfers happen, and I didn't do anything. But my grocery account got funded, my spending account got funded, my kids' education account got funded. Like all that happens. And I did nothing because I took an afternoon to set up a system for myself, and it's all automatic, right? So that's the idea is, yes, it's complicated, now, like the way that things are happening. But we want you to take a step back and make it simple. And that's what that's what the system does for you.
How do you guys overcome inconsistent paychecks?
So, yeah. Okay. Sorry. I was waiting for your mom to say something else.
Okay. No.
Okay. So inconsistent paychecks, what we want you to do is work off the least amount. Okay. So when you are, because there's always a threshold that you know you never go below. So we want you to make your budget bare minimum off of that. And then anything above that, you can make like a wish list at the bottom of like, okay, if this much comes in, then these are the things that I'm going to savings, like put in savings buckets. But normally you really need to be able to fund your immediate needs, like your bills, your debt payments, and your spending, which is like gas, groceries, and food, things like that. And then everything else can get funded with anything that comes, that is more inconsistent
or that's above your threshold.
Yeah.
And that's usually, and it can feel tricky when you have, different paychecks and stuff. So we want you to set up that minimum threshold, and we want you to set your budget up on that, right, as well. So you have to be able to live on that, because that's a reality, right? And then like Vanessa said, anything that happens where it's better, then you can do some of those wish list items, but you really do want to set it up for the reality. And this, this is at, maybe a lower income level. This is all the way, if you have your own business, it may be inconsistent and you still have to budget for it. Like even if it's higher inconsistent or, whatever, we still want to give every one of those dollars a job. But what we always start with, and talking about like entrepreneurs, is what do you cost to live? Like what is your bare minimum footprint, right? And we have to figure out a way to fund that. And then anything over and above that, then we can play with, a little bit more.
When we're talking about like super inconsistent, like I had a lawn care company who was a client, and they make so much money in the summer, and in the winter it's like dead silent. So we actually in that situation set up like a holding account where he funded his life through the summer, no different than he would in the winter, but he had all his extra money sitting there to be able to fund his winter, right? Does that make sense? So in extreme circumstances, that's kind of what you're doing if you're an entrepreneur, but otherwise you really need to be able to fund your life off of that bare minimum threshold when you have inconsistent paychecks.
And I mean, college students can be very similar. And so we don't have college students, but we have.
Well, we had the one.
We don't personally.
Oh, I'm sorry. Not yet. Yeah. Our kids are only 16.
But similarly, they can make more money in the summer.
Yeah.
And so the idea is like, if I'm making more money in the summer, then I can keep that back to fund my life during the fall or when I have less time to work or whatever. So you can still do that the same way as the lawn care. We're just like, here's my monthly stipend I pay myself out of this bucket that I made during summer. That's really kind of the dream if I could do that when I'm in college, right? But then it can get more sophisticated. But you need to know what your bare minimum footprint is. And then when you want, and this happens all the time, okay, well, that's great that you want to go to vacation. Now you're going to have to find a way to make the money. Like, and while that seems harsh, but it's like, okay, I have an actual number goal. Like I know if I want to do this thing, this is what I have to do. It's a finite thing. Maybe I'm going to get a part-time job for a month or two or whatever. And then I can do that, or I can sell a bunch of stuff on Craigslist or wow.
Craigslist, she just aged us.
Oh, bless it. I don't even think I've ever sold anything on Craigslist. God bless, I'm old. Okay, it's fine. I'm not that old. Okay. I can sell it on Marketplace.
Yes,
is that better?
Marketplace.
Okay, that's better. Marketplace. Anyway, and so I have clients that do that, just like to pull some extra money for a goal that they have, right? So you can use that to fund it. But I always think it's nice to know the number and know that I have control to hit that number.
Right.
Are you, in terms of the bank accounts that you recommend, do you recommend interest-bearing accounts for the stuff that you're saving, like when you're having like a gift account or stuff like that? Or is it all just general checking accounts?
No, absolutely not. So there are a couple banks that have really great high interest savings accounts. Like their regular savings accounts are high interest. So like SoFi does that, and so does Ally. Those are really great banks to have that. But no, so the idea is you have savings accounts for these savings buckets, like Christmas, vehicle maintenance, birthdays, or like gifts, right? And then like vacation. And the idea is that you're putting the money in there every single month. And then when you go to spend the money, you transfer into your spending account and then you spend the money, which is your spending account is obviously a checking account because you have a debit card attached to that.
Yeah. So you were going to want to have, your checking account for bills and spending minimum. And then your other ones, if it's something you're saving for, it's really cool. It's called a savings account. And to your point, now they have high interest, high yield savings accounts. They actually now have high yield or checking accounts. So, for sure. Like, and this is the point. We want again, so it depends on what level you're at, but we have clients that are putting, tens of thousands of dollars in their different savings buckets each month, depending on what they're saving for. Why would that money, our children are putting their savings in high yield savings money. Like, why would you not be making a couple dollars or $10 or whatever?
I actually have people in my law school class putting their student loans into the savings account because they can make money off of it, and you're allowed to do it.
Yep. Yeah.
Wow. So what they get the loans, they put it in the savings account, it makes money, and then they pay the payments off for school as they monthly.
Come? Yeah, as they come. And you're making money off of it, and you're allowed to do it. The federal government
and they're
hasn't said
making more
anything.
money?
No.
Oh my goodness. Okay, my brain
more.
is
Not necessarily more.
So you're just I guess I'm just like interested what the interest rate is when they're pulling that money out. Because if their interest rate on paying, because it's deferred.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, well, student loans is a whole nother conversation.
But I think high yields are great. I think people need to utilize them more.
That's just a game that people need to be careful. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. I don't think I would recommend maybe doing that with your student loans because I don't want to interfere in that aspect, but people my age need to understand the importance of high yields, even if it's that 3-month summer job you did.
Yep.
Well, whatever money's left over, that could be your beginning of spring break.
Oh, for
every age. Yeah. Like we said, I have a 9-year-old and she has a high yield savings account. Yeah. So, but I think what's cool about your generation is they're very, very credit card shy. Mm-hmm. So that's great. So let's keep that because
keep that going.
Keep that going for you guys. And student loans, don't get us started on those, but it is what it is. But what we want you to think about is the concept of being your own bank. That's where this all comes back to. So if I'm setting all this money aside in these high yield savings accounts, eventually I'm going to have a higher emergency fund, right? And if something happens, like were we just talking about, who was just talking about $13,000? Oh, our assistant, she was saying they had a plumbing issue and it cost $13,000 to fix. And so eventually you want to be your own bank. Like if you just have the money in that high yield and it's some of it has to be liquid. Like obviously you want to have investments, right? But you need to have it so you can get to it. It might as well be making you money, but also I'm going to borrow money from myself, not a credit card. Right. Like sometimes people push back. Well, what happens if my pet, blah, 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 or whatever. You have enough money in the bank to be your own bank. Mm-hmm. You're asking yourself for permission to borrow money, not someone else, not my favorite thing to do. You're asking yourself and that's what we want for you. And obviously high yield savings accounts are a really good way to do that.
I have a client, he was super big on credit card points, right? I have to use my credit card for everything because I get all these points and blah, blah. So we figured out actually how many points he was getting and how much money he would have to spend to get the amount of points that he wanted, whatever. He is making like double the amount of money in his high yield savings account with all the money that he's putting in there versus what he'd be making, what he was going to make with using a credit card. And so now it's a fun game. Every single month she goes and takes all the money that was made on her interest, like in the interest for all the savings buckets. And she takes it and puts it into one account that says interest made in 2024. So he is cool. Literally, and yes, you can continue to leave it in there to compound, whatever. Yeah. She's doing a different game. She's gamifying it. Yeah. So she literally takes all the interest out at the end of every month or at the beginning of the month once it drops, and then puts it into one account. And she's showing him like, hey, babe, these are all of our points. Mm-hmm. And this is what we can use on airfare and travel and all of that, like all the fun stuff.
Again, that's being your own bank. And we understand that there are a lot of proponent people for credit cards. We just don't want to play that game. Like you have better things to do with your time and money than to try to beat the credit cards at their game. Right. Yeah. And it's just not, you can overcome that. Like wealthy people are not sitting here trading time or trading credit card points. That's not the game that we want to play. That's a lower level game. We're going to go higher.
Yeah. When you look at, especially this time of year, and
speaking of credit cards.
Yeah. Speaking of credit cards, there is that, like, how do people start digging themselves out, right? When you don't have a plan and then you end up with this massive bill and you didn't pay attention to it. And then you're like, oh my gosh, what do I do next? And my interest is 20-something%, right?
20, girl. We're seeing like 30 and 33% now.
Seriously?
That's scary.
When I had a client a couple months ago, she came to me, she had 4 credit cards over 30%. I didn't know what to do. Gross. It was insane.
And how does that happen? Like,
that's just, that was the rate.
So
you just don't make the minimum payments on it?
No, that's literally what she signed up for.
There's a lot of very sketch any way that somebody will lend you money. There's a lot of sketch things. So it could be like, well, it's free interest for the first 18 months and then it goes to 33% and nobody's paying attention. There's so many different sketch things out there. So, but to answer the question, the first rule of getting out of debt is to, use debt no more. So, okay. So you're like, oh, Shana, that sounds easy for you to say, don't use my credit card that I don't even know how to budget without it. We need to put it on paper. That's what we're saying. Like put it all on paper, see what's possible. See if I next month, if I tried not to use my credit card, how would I be able to fund my life? Would it work? Okay. And then the other thing, a lot of times people are doing the credit card. They're using the credit cards as a budget, which is not a budget, but we love you. We still love you. Okay. We still love you. But, what they would do is they just pay it off at the end of the month, right? Or when they get their paycheck, they pay off the credit card. That's like the cycle that they're in. So what we're going to tell you is what we want you to do is start using your budget, and you're not going to be able to pay it off necessarily. We're going to have to go make payments until we can get the budgets fixed and looking at how we can pay it off, over time. But really the first step is to get using your own money, like using your own cash to pay for stuff. So there's a couple things. First of all, I'm just going to throw it in here because I'll forget. If you have to use a credit card to pay for it, it means you can't afford it. That's actually what that means. It means you didn't have the money. So just like if you can pay it, replay that in your head, it means I can't afford this. Oh, maybe I shouldn't buy it right now.
Jay-Z always says that if you can't afford it twice, you can't afford it.
Okay. See? Exactly.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, exactly. That's really, we'll have him.
It's a lot.
We'll probably have him on our podcast.
He'll come on.
We'll probably just have him. But yeah, so we just want you to wean yourself off the credit card and just, again, this next level of being your own bank, being bougie on a budget, like owning your finances. That's what we want for you. Okay.
Yeah. And when you're sitting there racking things up in the month and then paying it off, you're an entire month behind with cash.
It's true.
Like literally, we have people who can't, like I had a lady, I love her so much. She's so sweet. She's a new client, but she spent literally all her money in the beginning of the month and then didn't pay her mortgage. So like she still had her mortgage payment due on the 15th of the month and she couldn't pay it because she blew all her money because we were trying to get her a paycheck ahead. And we got her a paycheck ahead. But the problem is that she was not used to having all this cash. They're so used to being broke all the time and racking up the credit card and not having any money that she had all this money in the account and then she just blew it because she was so excited. Right. But so the idea is like, yes, there's going to be money there. But you have to be okay with having money. You have to be okay with being your own bank. And I think we've seen a lot of people when we transition them from using a credit card all the time to seeing all this money in the account and then they blow it all because they're so excited. And then we're like, okay, but now you have money. And they're like, oh. And so we're like, this concept of having to build your bank account to be able to fund it and be your own bank, it is new to them. So when we're talking about how do we get out of debt, we have to stop using it, get on a budget, figure out how much can you actually pay this month because you're not going to be able to pay that credit card off guarantee. If you're using the card and then to live off of, and then now you're trying to have cash to live off of, then you have to pay the card. So you're not going to be able to pay it off. And then from there, you have to maybe look in your budget and go, what do I need? What do I don't need? What am I spending money on that I really don't care about? What subscriptions can I cut to make the wiggle room that I need to get out of debt? And then once you're out, you're going to have way more money to be able to do things with.
And two things that are going to make this easier real quick. First, you're going to look at your credit card statements and see what you're spending money on. That's going to help you. Like, let's see how much I'm spending, what I'm spending, and it will either have it be a come to Jesus moment. Well, it will definitely be that. But what you're going to do is use that data without the drama. You're going to use the data to make a budget and say, this is what I want to be doing, right? And the other thing is when we're asking you to separate your bills from your spending, it's going to be like a crutch, right? To go from the credit card because it's sort of like that spending account is kind of like your credit limit, whatever your balance. And so you can just see, which is, it sounds restrictive, but it's actually freeing. What people are doing is spending and hoping, right? That's that hope week goes through or whatever. If I know I have a spending account and I have $300 this month that I can buy whatever I want or whatever your budget allows, that actually is freeing. Like maybe it's not as much as I would want in the beginning, but it's like, I know I have $300. If that Black Friday sale comes, if I'm walking by the store in the mall, that's okay. It's okay. I have it. Right. And so that's where we want to transition from. There's a lot of anxiety with not knowing what you have to spend, which causes you to spend more. It's this weird thing. So if we actually know, I might actually be able to stick to it and then I won't have to rely on the credit card.
Are there any apps that you like? I mean, so I've seen a lot of things like with Rocket Money and because I was like, thinking about all of the subscriptions we have and or forgetting all of the subscriptions we have, which is more important. And then I'm saying to the kids, with 6 kids, they want every service, right? And I'm like, we're getting rid of this. And one kid's like, well, no, don't get rid of it. No, I'm sorry, we're getting rid of this. This is what you have to use. But sometimes it can be overwhelming because you're like, oh my gosh, do I have that still? Do I not? Mm-hmm. And yes, you can look through your credit card bill, but is there anything that simplifies that? Are there other apps that you use that you find helpful?
Yeah. I think the hardest part about starting is really seeing what's happening, right? So we talk about doing a 90-day audit, which is going back through your bank statements and your credit card statements and go, like Shana said, what am I spending money on? The only way that you're going to know how you're spending your money is what's being pulled from your account, right? If you're not, and so in the idea of these Rocket Money or budgeting apps or whatever, that's just one more step. Okay. It's one more thing you have to do. What we like to tell people is you already have a bank app. Like all banks now have an app. And so really when we're talking about transferring money and automatic transfers and seeing how much money you have to spend in your spending account, the only thing you really need is your bank app to pull up and go, okay, there's my spending account. Like Shana said, I got $300 to spend. Doesn't matter how I spend it this month, but that's my budget. That's really the only thing you need. So you don't need all these external devices and apps and tracking things. We don't even recommend tracking. Like that is boring. Nobody wants to sit there and track every single expense. Nobody has time for that. If you have an account that tells you the amount of money that you can spend, that's all you really need.
Well, and so what's going to really help you, or setting the system up is going to have all of those things pulled into your bills account. Okay. So the problem that you think you need Rocket Money or whatever is because you've got 1,000 transactions going on in one account. You can't tell.
Or in a bunch of other accounts, right?
You don't know what's happening. So this system, we're going to put every single thing that's a bill, including every single subscription, into one account. And guess what else is not going to happen? Nothing else is happening in that account. So I can very clearly log on and see exactly what's happening. No other cards are allowed to be used for subscriptions. And that's really important in this modern age. It's such a good point that you bring up because the $5 here, $5 there, $5. And then what did you say 6 kids, Simone?
Yes.
Okay. So 5 times 6 times 5, because they each have their own.
Well, and all the double subscriptions.
Plus the parents, like it's everywhere, right? And so some of it's coming from Apple Pay, PayPal, like whatever. So we really want to consolidate that. And then you'll be able to see very clearly. And that's when like half the time people don't even know what they're paying for. They don't know. And that's why you think you need an app. No, you need a system that you can use and don't have to pay for the rest of your life to see what I'm spending and then make decisions on that.
I need a system.
Yeah, me too.
Listen, we all do. Because we don't have time to do it in the moment. We don't have time to
I need a system to do it for me so I don't have to do it. That's really what happens in my life.
Yeah. And the bills account really is phenomenal because it gives you the peace of mind that knowing everything is taken care of. But also I can really clearly see like what's happening very quickly, you know.
It's so easy to be able to pull up my bills account and be like, these are this list of transactions are the bills that came out this month and that's it. Yeah. Because there's no, like Shana said, there's no other like spending, going to Starbucks, going to Target, shopping on Amazon. Like there's no other transactions that are coming out of that account. It's just what's being automatically drafted for bills.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really helpful place to start. There's a lot of work to do. And I want, if you're, our listeners to know that it may sound overwhelming in the moment, but once you start, it seems like a really simple process. And then you don't have to stress about it all the time. I know when I get to December, I'm like, ooh, do I have enough money to do this? And then so my husband is a physician, but he is he's not a sole practitioner, but the way he gets paid is through an LLC. And so obviously taxes change at the beginning of the year. So his income will be less because he's got more taxes going out the first few months. And so that all has to be planned for. And so I get to the end of the year and I think, okay, do I have enough for everything? And I don't like just playing it by ear. I want to make sure that it's completely funded and that the kids get it too. The kids are not, oh yeah, I'm just going to go buy this. Like yesterday, my daughter said to me,
not me.
My youngest, not you. My youngest daughter said, hey, so I want to go buy this. I'm almost out of my body soap. And I said, okay, great. I said, well, this is the one that you use. It's going to be on Cyber Monday, buy one, get one half off. And she's like, well, I just want to go to the store and get it. And I said, well, I'm not paying for that. Like if you can buy one, get one half off tomorrow and you don't need it today, why are we going to do that? She's like, okay, fine, whatever. But it's getting them young to understand the value of money. And I think that a lot of us have struggled with that with our kids because everything is instant gratification and it's so easy to buy things. There's, I see my son ordering games, right? It's just, you can do it like that. You don't have to go to a store. You don't have to do anything. And I think it just makes it so much easier to spend money, which is not teaching them the value of money.
Well, because you can't see it. So it's like this transaction, this magic transaction that happens in mom and dad's account or whatever that they are not even really part of. So it doesn't did it really happen? Yeah. Right. So it's kind of scary when there's no emotion or understanding attached to it.
Yeah. And again, it's another problem of the modern digital age. So, some solutions and listen, I don't think we've budgeted this way for someone with 6 kids, but one solution that people do have is they get their kids an account, or back in the day it would be like give them an allowance, right? Give them 50,
an envelope,
like however much. And this is how much I think my allowance when I was a kid was like $3 a week, right? That wouldn't even get you one drink at Starbucks now. So whatever. So obviously things have changed, but whatever your quote unquote allowance, and I wouldn't even call it that, but like whatever the budget is for them, because you're going to spend money on each kid every month, but they can have a budget. And so what we've seen is instead of like, it used to be given them like a 1 monthly budget cash amount, they have an account. And again, that automatically funds funds their account. They can see, how much money they have. Maybe they have $50 and then they have to manage that. They can decide, I want to go, skating with my friends or whatever, different age levels here, right? Or whatever. But kids can be on a budget too. And again, really important for them to learn how to manage money as well, because again, like you guys said, it's like ethereal thing. It's like money is everywhere. I think, I don't know. I've never actually seen any money. So, so we want to rein that in because fortunately, you guys, are in a different situation, but we've seen so many times they go to college and they just don't know, and they get taken advantage of with different like credit card offers, student loans offers, and then they're already saddled with problems from the beginning, which is not fair. That's not fun. You don't need to be 21 or 22 with a whole bunch of debt around, like a noose around your neck. So we want to teach them young as much as we can.
Well, and we want to bring them in on the conversation. So yes, teach them young, but what does that mean? Like show them a budget. Make them a budget, right? Tell them and explain to them what your family goals are and what you guys have going on and why we're not going to go to the store and blow $100 at Target today, or why we're getting this shampoo, buy one, get one half off versus spending the full amount because of the instant gratification. Like, why is it that we're doing things a little differently, and how it's going to be able to fund y'all's future, their future, your future. I think that too it allows for some buy-in on their end. So when you can bring them in on the conversation and they know and they're in on it, they're excited about it, they're more likely to be on board. You know what I mean? Does that help?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I actually was just talking to her about, is that, okay, this is what we're going to be putting into your account and you'll be able to figure out what to do with it from there. And when it's gone at the end of the month, it's gone. Like there's no, let me use the Apple Pay. That's not going to happen because.
Yeah, that's our other suggestion. Just disconnect all.
Yeah, I don't have that, but I consistently lose my phone. So that's why I don't do it. But everyone's like, oh, you should bring your wallet places. I was like, no, if I bring my wallet places, I'm going to spend money, but I have to bring my phone places. So don't put it on your phone. You'll spend money.
So good. You're so way ahead of the game.
This is not good because it's antisocial, but what I've learned is if I don't leave the house, I spend less money. That's
very true.
Yeah.
Me too. Bring your friends and invite your friends over.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
So this was really, really helpful. First, before we tell people where they can find you, and we'll definitely include everything in the show notes and your, because I think it's going to really help people to have that Christmas budget and in general. I mean, we can add whatever you want to the show notes. Yeah. So Liv, what does our calendar say today?
We're subconsciously hardwired for safety, seen in the way we automatically do the same predictable things in the same predictable ways over and over and over, while regularly and consciously yearning for something new, something different.
Pretty interesting. I mean, maybe that's why we don't change the way we spend money, because we're so used to doing the same thing over and over again that it feels like a really big deal to make this change. But in reality, when you make the change, it's going to make your life so much easier and so much better.
Yeah. And honestly, the number one reason that we want you to set this system up is to feel that safety and security. The feeling of knowing that you have money for all the things that you want and knowing where it's coming from, that is, that's priceless. Okay. Yeah. It's priceless. And what you feel now is the opposite of that, but you are, just repeating those habits because that's who we are, but you're not feeling that security because you don't know. And so get it set in place. And when your tire goes out, you have money. When somebody surprises you with a birthday party, you have the money to go get it and you don't ever have to worry about it again.
Well, and you don't know what you don't know, and don't be ashamed for that. But now that you've heard a new system, maybe you're intrigued, you want to go find more. Yeah, you heard a new idea. Let's dig into that. You have no idea how many of our people have told us, like, I could not do anything different now that I've done this. Yeah. But they didn't know about this until they heard about it, right? And then they did it. Like, for me, we've been doing this system for so long for ourselves. I could not imagine a different way of me having to actually pay myself and make transfers and figure out, like, no, it's all done for me, and it has been for years, and I love that. Yeah. But again, this whole comfort zone things, right? Change happens outside your comfort zone. So we need to be able to get out of that and activate the change that you want. Like Shana said, you may think that you're feeling secure, but you're not, because you're just scared.
Yeah, absolutely. This has been awesome. Thank you so much. Please tell us where we can find you.
Well, you can find our podcast. It's called Financial Coaching for Women, but we have something really exciting that's going to, I think, kind of be perfect for your audience. We're going to do a boot camp. It's going to be a money makeover boot camp, and it's going to be right after Christmas, because let's be honest, if anybody has any time to do this right now, between now and Christmas, it's probably not going to be happening. That's why we planned it. It's like, as you're getting your New Year's resolutions and your goal mindset set up for January 12th. So it's going to be December 30th through January 3rd. It's a boot camp, money makeover boot camp. Come sign up for that. Like, don't even worry about it now. Just in your brain, say, okay, I'm going to go do that then when I have time. And you can go to budgetbesties.com/bootcamp to sign up for that. And then we'll be working with you each day to get some of the stuff set up.
Yeah. It's just 30 minutes a day, guys. So that way that you can, in every single day, we're talking about different subjects. So that way you can really hone into starting 2025 off on the right foot.
I love that. Thank you so much. Liv, any last words?
Budget. I need to go look at my credit cards now.
Hey, guys, we'll just keep coming back every so often so that you can be motivated.
Be like a personal check-in.
I was actually thinking, in 6 months, I want you back on so I can tell you the progress that I've made, because as I'm sitting here, there are things that I'm stressing about things that I didn't budget for, like a new roof. Didn't expect that to happen this year. A seawall. I mean, there's a lot of things, huge numbers that you're like, okay, where's that coming from? Right. Yeah. And so I definitely think that just thinking about more into the future and how less stressed I could be if I took these steps. So,
and obviously Liv and Simone, y'all are at different budget levels, but the thing is, if she can get it set up now, so she never gets to that point, right? But then also, it's you make too much money for that. This is bananas. You make too much money to feel stressed about it. You have the money. It's just I just need to get it organized. That's really what it's about.
Yeah. And I bet once you put it on paper, Simone, is actually going to be easier than you think. This right now, you can't fathom it because it's all here. In your brain.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So write it down.
I started writing it down. Yeah. I started.
And I bet you'll be able to, if you divvy it up how many months you need before you need that money, you'll be able to make it happen for sure. We have faith in you.
Thank you so much. And thank you for joining us on this week's episode of Her Unshakeable Confidence. Always remember, you are unshakable. See you next time.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Her Unshakeable Confidence with Simone and Olivia Knego. We hope this episode has made your day just a little bit brighter and given you the inspiration you need to confidently go about your week. Always remember to be authentically you. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss an episode. And feel free to connect with them on Instagram at Simone Knego and at Olivia Knego. Till next time.